So you decided to go a little wild and crazy and incorporate a different language in your fantasy novel. But you're a little stuck on the execution. No worries, in this video I'm going to give you tips to help you incorporate different languages in your fantasy writing. What's up? This is Round Lady Publishing TV and I'm Gabby. If you're new to my channel, this is where you come to learn tips and tricks to help you in your writing and publishing journey. This is the fantasy spin-off of the videos that I've been doing on writing dialogue, so if you haven't watched those already, make sure to click on the card so that you can watch them and get other great tips on how to have stellar, amazing, phantasmal dialogue in your writing. So first I want to start this video by telling you I am not teaching you how to create a fantasy language. I don't know how, I don't plan on learning how, that's not my jam. But if you already created one, I'm going to show you how to incorporate it in your writing. But before I get to that, I actually want to tell you reasons why you should not include a different language in your fantasy writing. And I know you're like, what? I didn't come for that? But hear me out. So the first reason why you should pause and think really long and hard before you decide to incorporate a foreign language or fantasy language in your writing is because it could be kind of confusing for readers. So I'll admit, I have not read Huckleberry Finn. I argued my teacher to death in the 8th grade about that book. I could not understand it. It was horrible. Like, that was just a eye-gouging experience for me. And I still to this day, I'm sorry Mark Twain, I'm sorry people who love this book, I could not get it, I could not understand it, and it was horrible. So you don't want your readers to have that same experience. So if you're throwing a fantasy language in your book just for the sake of having one, you like trying to follow in Tolkien's footsteps or something like that, maybe it's just not the best thing. And I mean, it might not even be necessary. Also, you need to make sure that it's consistent. And that can be really hard. So for example, all languages have rules. And if you're creating a language, you need to have rules for your language. So for example, in English, if it is in the past tense, it ends usually in ed, unless of course you're talking about irregular words, but you know, anyway. In other languages, such as like Spanish and German, words can have a masculine, a feminine, and a neutral form, you know, so you have to think about all those kinds of things. And if you're not willing to put in the time and the energy and effort to really flesh out your language and to apply it consistently, then you probably shouldn't be writing it. And finally, that consistency needs to apply on both the narrative and the dialogue level. So what I mean by that is, if you're trying to go for like a high fantasy, old-timey, old English kind of thing, that needs to be consistent in both the narrative and in the dialogue. So especially in like first-person fantasy novels, if what the character is thinking sounds super modern, but then when they actually speak out loud or, you know, in their dialogue, it's like ye and oh and all that stuff, then it's not consistent. It needs to be consistent on both the narrative level and the dialogue level. For example, I ran through the ogre horde, ducking and dodging, arrows flying past my head. Ye willeth not to catcheth me! You see how it doesn't match up? We've got this really modern narrative kind of action, you know, telling about the action, but then the word is like, the dialogues are just, it just doesn't match and it's not consistent. So remember, you have to do that. And again, if you're not willing to put in all that work because it's a lot of work to make it consistent on all levels, then maybe it's best to just leave that alone. So you've listened to all the reasons why I said you should probably double think and or not include a different language in your novel. And you're still like, I don't care, I want to do it. All right, cool. Well, let's see how you can incorporate it into your writing. The first way you can incorporate it into your writing is to just sprinkle the foreign words or foreign language into the dialogue itself. So for example, in some romance novels, one of the characters may be from a different country, like Spain or, you know, something like that. And so they may have like a pet name for their love interest that's in their language. And so it's just, you know, kind of sprinkled in there. So I'm like, how was your day, mi amor? And so when they do that, it's just sprinkled in there. It's a little bit, it's, you know, and so it's not overwhelming or confusing to the reader. And the reader can generally, from the context clues in the sentence and the story thus far, can decipher what it is that the character is saying. And even if they can't, it's still not confusing and it doesn't completely and totally tear the reader away from the story. The second way that you can incorporate it into your dialogue is to say the words in English, but then use the dialogue tag to let the reader know that whatever is being said is actually being said in the foreign language. So for example, "Don't go in there, it's dangerous," she said in Elvish. So it's in English, it's okay, but we've just let the reader know that in actuality, even though it's written in English, she's actually speaking a foreign language. Number 3 is you can show it through your point of view character talking to someone else speaking in that other language. And then number 3 can actually be broken down into 2 ways of showing it through your point of view character. So you can have the foreign language translated by your point of view character. So for example, Jenny tapped the man on the shoulder to get his attention. "Excuse me, do you know how to reach Qualdam?" The elf pointed at the narrow road behind him. "Qualdamandu." She groaned. Of course her destination can only be reached through the ice mountains. So I don't actually say what Qualdamandu, I made that mess up, of course. We don't really say what it means, but you're kind of translating it through the point of view character. So we can kind of assume she asked for directions to this place, and then she groans and she's like, of course it's through blah, 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 blah. So through her actions and what she says before and after, we're translating what exactly the language means. Second way you can do it through the point of view character is if the point of view character doesn't speak the language, the character can be just as lost as the reader, or they can have someone else translate it for them. So for example, Jenny tapped the man on the shoulder to get his attention. "Excuse me, do you know how to reach Qualdam?" The man pointed at their narrow road behind him. "Qualdamandu." She blinked, trying to keep the deer in the headlights look off her face. Was that Elvish? So in that instance, she doesn't know what the devil he said, just like the reader doesn't know what he says, but obviously she's saying, was that Elvish? So she knows it's a foreign language and you're still incorporating the language. So again, you can play around with those two of how to show through your point of view character that a foreign language is being spoken at all, and then what it may or may not mean. And the fourth way that you can incorporate foreign fantasy languages in your writing is to just say, screw it, man, go all in, write in a foreign language, and have like a dictionary or something at the back of your book. So let's look at that same example like that. Jenny tapped the man on the shoulder to get his attention. "Excuse me, do you know how to reach Qualdam?" The elf pointed at the narrow road behind him. "Qualdamandu." She nodded, ready to begin her journey. So in that, obviously the character understood whatever it is that the elf had told her, but we didn't explain it to the reader. And so if you want to, you just never have to explain what the language means and just have a dictionary at the back of the book. And so so the reader can just go back and flip and figure out what exactly was said or what was meant by the comments. Now with that method, of all of them, I highly discourage that one the most. First and foremost, again, we want to suck our readers into the story, and if they have to stop and pause and go to the back of the book in order to look words up, obviously it's constant breaking of their attention and it's dissolving that cocoon of your world that you want them to immerse themselves in. So make sure that whichever one of these methods that you choose, that again you use it consistently and that it all makes sense and you're following the rules that you set. I hope you learned a lot from this video. If you did and you just were like, I'm going for it, I'm putting a foreign language in my dialogue, A, congratulations. B, leave me a comment below and tell me why you decided and how you're going to incorporate it in your writing. I reply to everyone who comments on my videos, so you will hear back from me. Or if you want another way to reach out to me, I am on Instagram and Twitter. So that's all for this one. Again, this is a video in a series that I'm doing on writing craft, so make sure to check out those other videos, and I wish you so much success and happiness and joy and just amazingness in your writing and publishing journey and keep me up to date on your progress. I'm really interested. You have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.